Stanley C. Help me welcome Stanley.
Thank you. So what if there was a magic pill? A pill that looked something like this. Developed right here in Oak Ridge, Tennessee, in a secret lab, headed by a team led by Stephen and Luann Christie. So what would this pill do? It would erase all the negativity from Toastmasters' minds. It would help us to take those risks, to accept those challenges. Instead of saying, no, I can't, saying, yes, I will. In the time that I have with you, I want to discuss, like John mentioned, 3 areas. Remembering our why, discussing our responsibilities as Toastmasters, and then sharing a little bit from my own personal testimony, story about how we as Toastmasters can find a broader, bigger purpose and meaning in our lives, and how it helps us as Toastmasters to do that. It took me 40 years before I first joined the Toastmasters Club. I remember walking into that club and looking around the room. There was 10 members. That was about perfect for me. I visited other Toastmasters clubs, many of them much bigger, 20 or more. But for someone with such low self-esteem, 20 was too intimidating. I knew I had to do something. I kept hearing those voices from the past saying, boy, you are worthless, no good bum. Boy, you're going to never amount to anything. Boy, you're just lazy. But at the other time, I was also hearing voices from my managers and supervisors where I worked saying, Stanley, I like your ideas. If only. Stanley, you have some great suggestions. If only. Stanley, what you just mentioned to me would have been great, but we just left the meeting. That's where you should have mentioned it. Oh no. If I opened my mouth in a meeting in front of all those people, I might prove him right. I couldn't do that. But my career was flat, my life was going nowhere. I had to do something. So I joined Grand Rock Toastmasters. Even then, it took me 6 months before I gave my first speech. The icebreaker, just like we still do today. I had to even persuade myself to step up, to find the courage to do it. I convinced the six, Stan, it's only 4 minutes. And you get to introduce yourself. You get to share a little bit more about who you are. But again, I was taking a risk. What if I stood up and again proved him right? But I did it. I gave my speech. And when I sat down, I was ready for him to say, Stan, I'm sorry, it's not going to work out for you. He was right. You're no good. But what happened instead was they all stood up, including the guests in the room. And they gave me a standing ovation. Wow. I mean, wow. Over the next several months, I continued to grow and learn with that club. And then about a year or so later, the bottom dropped out. I've been with this company for over 15 years. And there have been rumors about downsizing, but I figured I've been with them for 15 years. Wasn't going to happen to me. And then that Friday, my supervisor called me into his office and he gave me a box. I didn't know that they really use boxes to tell you when you're terminated. So if you have 15 minutes to put your things in your box, and the security guard will escort you to the door. Wow. What was I going to do? I was just beginning to get my self-esteem, my confidence built. And then this happened. And I know many of you have been through this experience, maybe even fairly recently. So I know how you felt. Kind of like in a fog. What do I do? Of course, I went home and started figuring out what my next steps were. And the first thing on my list was saying, okay, where am I going to cut my expenses? And unfortunately, Toastmasters was at the top of the list. I walked into the next meeting, fully prepared to tell the members of that club that this was it. I couldn't afford to pay my membership anymore. But 5 minutes after I was in that club, I realized that would have been the biggest mistake I could have made. If nothing else, it was an escape. Within that hour of meeting of that club, I no longer had to worry about the stress of what I was going to do, the stress of finding a job. That was all outside those doors. My members helped me again to table topics and other skills, to my interview skills. And they helped me that when I spoke to someone during an interview, to look them in the eyes instead of looking down. Over time, I found a job with the state of Texas. I was starting to get my confidence growing even more. Fellow Toastmasters, do you remember why you first joined Toastmasters? Was your first speech a wow experience, a momentous experience? When members join your club and they give their first speech, is it a wow experience to them? Do you do what you can to make it special, memorable? Do you make other special moments in your club special, memorable for your members? If you're in a corporate club and your corporate club is being downsized, or your corporation pulls the plug on the support, you can do like other clubs that I know of, where they were actually proactive. Instead of waiting for their company to downsize or pull the plug, they were tired of it. They believed in Toastmasters. They liked what they were doing. They enjoyed the membership. So they pulled the plug on the corporation. And they chartered their own community club. All the members left the corporate club and joined this community club. And instead of the corporation telling them that we were no longer going to support you, they told the corporation, we no longer need your support. And the few members that weren't able to because of the location and time, they found other clubs to join. You see, they realized too that leaving Toastmasters would have been a big mistake. When you chartered that club and you're all new members in this club, what was your experience like? You remember the excitement and not knowing exactly where this club was going to go, and not knowing exactly where the potential that you had reached, but you have big dreams, big hopes. Those dreams can still be very real for you. Don't let go of that experience. Remember your why, and help others remember their why, that special experience. Make sure that they have those wow experiences for when they give their speeches or accomplish big things. I want to talk a few minutes about the responsibilities as Toastmasters. The club mission statement says, we provide a supportive and positive learning experience in which members are empowered to develop communication and leadership skills, resulting in greater self-confidence and personal growth. I want to give a special shout out to clubs like the Morning Cup Toastmasters. This club in Marigold, where I live, every meeting we start the meetings with reading the club mission statement. It serves as a reminder of what we're all about, what the club is all about, and what our members, what we as members are involved with and committed to. I want to focus on 3 key areas of that club mission statement. First of all, the very first word is we. Who is we? Is it the club officers? Is it a few of the key members, maybe the members that show up the most? Or is it all the members? The we is all of us. I remember when I was looking at clubs to join when I was moving from Texas to East Tennessee, I started zooming in and looking at different meetings and visiting the clubs. There's a lot of great clubs in East Tennessee. I visited Oak Ridge Toastmasters. They were a small club, I think about 8 members. I had been to many small clubs, and I know that many times they're just kind of like beat up. Are we really doing this? Or what's going on? But not this club. Every member was engaged. The speeches were great. They're positive, smiles on their faces. And I thought, okay, so I'm a guest there. This is the first time. Maybe that's just for a good show. So I went back a few more times. Everything was the same. I even went and looked at the Distinguished Club Performance Report, because sometimes the numbers tell a different story. Club officers, do they still attend even though they've been through trainings multiple times? Probably know it all, could have done the training. All the club officers still kept going to training, 4 points scored, reports submitted on time, education achievements being made. All of the members were participating. About 4 years ago, before COVID, I was invited to do the officer induction ceremony for a Air Force base, Laughlin Air Force Base in Del Rio, Texas. The medical group of that base had their own Toastmaster club, and they were particularly challenged because they were an Air Force club, and their members kept having to be deployed to bases around the world. Just at the point where they were getting strong and established, all of a sudden some of the members were just called off on the other bases. But they stayed strong. In this particular group of officers, the club president that was coming in had only been a member for 7 months. She was a fireball. All the members decided at this induction meeting they're going to have was also going to be an open house. So they were all working together to put together a good open house for their guests. And the officer, the club president, did something that hadn't been done before. She invited the group commander. I remember the reaction that the other members were saying is that, you did what? The group commander? Are you out of your mind? And he announced that he was coming, and sure enough, he was there. Now, what they didn't know was the group commander had actually invited the base commander. The base commander had just been assigned a few weeks before. And so when she came walking through the door, oh, you should have seen the faces of all those airmen in that medical group, all the members of that club. They were pretty nervous. So the base commander came up to me. I was going to about present and give a few minutes of speech on leadership. The base commander asked me if she could have a few minutes of my time. So absolutely. And inside I was asking myself, so, am I really going to say no to a general? Well, so when this base commander spoke to this group, she said, I'm so proud of you. I'm proud of you not just because of your service to your country. I'm proud of you because you're working together as a group. You're working together to improve yourself. You're supporting each other. You're helping each other. You're seeking to find ways to become better leaders, better servicemen, better citizens of this world. I think you can imagine the faces of those members of that group. She said, in fact, what I've seen at this meeting today I'm going to share with all personnel in this space that they need to join a group like Toastmasters. And she did. Remember, the we is all of us. No matter if you're only 8 members or 20 members or more. The other aspect of the club mission statement I want to talk about is support. And this time I want to focus not just on the club members, but I want to expand this to the we and support to all members of the district, especially current and past leaders. If you've achieved a Distinguished Toastmaster Award, I applaud you. It took some effort. It took a lot of work. You had certain leadership roles. That's fantastic. And if you've served in a leadership role in the past, bravo. I appreciate your service to your Toastmasters, to your clubs in your district. But let me also let you know that your job is not finished. We just heard a session on mentoring. As Distinguished Toastmasters, as past leaders, and even current leaders, your clubs, your members, they need you more today than they ever have. Not just to serve in more leadership positions, but step up as mentors. And I would ask, why not even be a club coach? Even though you don't necessarily need the credit, maybe it's the right thing to do. Maybe it's a good thing to do. Maybe it's a supportive thing to do. Encourage other members to step up. Help those younger members, your newer members. Even if they're only a few weeks as a member, maybe they have creative ideas. Maybe they have more to offer. When you ask for volunteers, not everybody is going to volunteer. Maybe it takes someone to ask, like an area governor or area director to ask. That's what it took me to get into leadership. The third word I want to look at is empowerment. Do all your members in your club feel empowered? Or do you feel like the only reason that they are involved or asked to come to a meeting is because they need to fill a meeting role? We have 25, 30 members, Dan. There's only so many roles that can be filled. But remember, it's we, it's all of us. So how are we empowering our members? Well, 2 years ago, I was the club president for Rochester Store Toastmasters. This club had 24 members. We are composed of past district leaders and new members. We didn't have an international president in our club. And we were meeting via Zoom during COVID. Now, from the outside, looking at it, because we had 24 members, you look at our distinguished club plan, it looked like we were on fire. We had hit 10 for 10 the previous year. But if you get to know the members, if you look at the inside, of those 24 members, really only about half usually showed up for meetings, because that was all they needed to fill the roles. And the club officers kept being the same people, turning over and over, because none of the newer members wanted to serve, knew enough to step up, that didn't feel comfortable. Because this time I challenged the club leaders, I challenged all of the members to do something different. I actually stole the idea from my Rotary. I joined Rotary, and when I first became a member of Rotary, I was told, okay, we have these committees. Which ones do you have to be a member of? I wasn't asked to volunteer. I was said, you are going to be on these committees. So I spoke at our first meeting for Rochester Store in the new Toastmaster year and said, we have all these vice presidents in our club. Now, what company do you know of where a vice president does all the work? We have all these members that are doing nothing other than maybe occasionally showing up for meetings. So each vice president had a committee. Every member served on a committee. The vice president of education had a mentorship chair. She had someone that helped with training of pathways. The public relations committee had a member who had always wanted to do a newsletter. So a newsletter for us historic Toastmasters was born. A member of the membership committee wanted to do new member orientation, a special session outside of a regular club meeting to talk more about what our club was and about Toastmasters. And you know, the most beautiful thing that happened in the spring of the following year, when it came time to elect new officers, because we had all these members of these committees who had learned the role of the vice president, they actually wanted to step up. The only officer that had repeated from a previous office position was the club president. All the other positions were filled by new members. We made a point of making sure that all of our members were empowered, that there were things that they could do outside of just showing up for club meetings to fill roles. Are you empowered? Do you feel like you're empowered for your club meetings? Are all of your members engaged and involved? And remember, the first word in the mission statement is we, all of us. Help us to support each other. And while I see the leaders and past leaders' role to provide that extra safety, protection, that mentoring, I'd like to talk about the tagline. The tagline says, where leaders are made, not where leaders are. We as club members and leaders serve as a safety net. We're there to help you stumble and pick you back up when you stumble. We're there because we expect that people will make mistakes. And that's why we're there to help you. We don't expect you to just walk in and just be a superstar leader. Granted, it would be great if you were. But we are an organization where leaders are made. The last section I want to talk about is a little bit more about who I am. And hopefully through my own personal story, it will help all of us find a little bit bigger purpose and how we can, as Toastmasters, can not only help our fellow Toastmasters, but our community and who we are, the people we live with and work with. My father was a drunk. He was a harsh drunk, a mean drunk. He died at the age of 30 from alcohol-related problems. I was a little over 2 years old. My mother packed my brother and my bags. We moved from Nevada back to Iowa, where she was closer to family. We lived in an upstairs apartment. Our landlords below took care of us, and she went back to high school to graduate, get her diploma. A couple of years after she graduated, she met this tall German farmer that lived a few miles from us. They fell in love and got married. We moved to his Iowa farm. What a shock that was. Not just because I had a new father, but imagine moving from an upstairs apartment. We have fairly modern appliances, a refrigerator and a stove and bathroom and everything, to a small farm. And when I first moved in the house, I was a small boy. I started exploring. And so I said, Gail, that was his name. Where's the bathroom? Oh, yeah. Well, you see the door there? You go out the door and there's a little building about 20 feet away. Our bathroom was an outhouse. Imagine having to use the outhouse when it's below zero in the middle of the night in February. Yeah. And oh yeah, that oven that my mom had to cook on, it was cast iron. She had to burn wood or coal to cook on it. It was an adjustment, but again, as a young boy, it was something I was able to handle. I really enjoyed being with the chickens, chasing the chickens around and milking the cows, and just a variety of different things on the farm. Life was pretty good. Now, my parents weren't really religious. They went to church on the important days like Christmas and Easter and Mother's Day. But that's where I met this person that was God. They said his name was God. Okay. Well, there'd be summer days. I'd be laying out on the grass at night, looking up at the stars, and I'd have this conversation with this guy. Actually, I did all the talking. And I said, God, how many stars are there? God, what do you look like? And probably the most important question of all was, God, why did you create skunks? Because they really stink. I never really got an answer from God, but you know, that was okay. I like doing all the talking anyway. Over the next few years, my family expanded from a family of 4 to a family of 9. And then again, all of a sudden, at about 13 years old, my world was shattered. My stepfather was in a farm accident. In the next several years, he lay flat on his back. We lost the farm, we lost everything. And that's when that mild-tempered man became mean and vicious. He lost his dignity. He was a proud German farmer man who could take care of his family. And now suddenly he felt worthless. And all of a sudden it became my brother and I were her boys.
Yeah. Wow.
The other family
Let me see if I
members
have sound.
were
Let me,
kids.
because I put the sound down.
His kids could do no wrong because they were still pretty young. My brother and I were no good. We were worthless. It was all our fault because we were in that situation. We worked all through school in the summer, and every cent we earned went to support our family. We depended on government welfare and handouts from the community. This time when I spoke to God, it was a whole different conversation. It was, what did I do? Why are you so mean? I hate you. What did I do? You're supposed to be a loving God. How could you do this? Made it through high school. I kept my grades up. And because of our income, I qualified for scholarships and low income grants to go to college. And in college, I just went wild. Partied up a storm, binge drinking, alcohol, beer, dabbled in drugs. One April night, I was going to a party. This time I invited a friend of mine. He hadn't been going to any of these parties, it just wasn't into it. But he was feeling down from having a rough time, so he came to the party with me. Well, we did the usual, the beer, the alcohol, and some drugs. This time a new drug was there. There's a drug called heroin. We both tried it. 24 hours later, when I came out of it, I looked around, my mind was kind of cloudy. Looked for my friend and said, where's Steve at? He died. He died of an overdose. What? Steve's dead. I got up when I was able to start walking. No destination in mind. And then pretty soon I found this building where there's some singing and people having some fun. I walked in. Two strangers walked up to me and talked to me. It was a church. They introduced me to God, at least they tried. And I said, oh, don't you even go there. Don't even go. I know how mean this bad, how bad this God is. Don't even go there. But then they reintroduced me to how much he actually loved me, that he sent his son to die for me. Now, okay, I understand that religion is supposed to be kind of taboo or even controversial in Toastmaster meetings and Toastmasters, but it's who I am. My life is different. And frankly, in these last few years, I think we need more of God, not less. And as I reflect back, and I retired from the state and been blessed with a nice pension and income, more time to serve and do things, I reflect back and realize that all those years I was mad and suffering and being through those rough times, I realized that God was really there in my life through people, other people in my community, to that stranger that paid for our grocery bills at our Brown's grocery just down the road, to those strangers who paid for our oil, fuel oil, so we could have heat in the winter, to our landlord who had every right to kick us out of the house because we hadn't been paying rent for several months, but he let us stay. And to that pastor who we never met, who found out I didn't have a suit to go to high school graduation, and he bought me a suit. God used people to make a difference in my life. He was there at that party that helped me survive, even though my friend Steve died. He was there at the church when those people shared with me. He was there, I believe he was there at that Round Rock Toastmasters Club when I gave my first speech. He was there when the area governor asked if I was interested in leadership because he saw potential in me. He's even here with me now, with this opportunity to share. So Toastmasters, we have an opportunity to not only help others, you have a story just like mine. It may not be the same situation, but we all have a story to share. We can use our stories to share it with our fellow members, our fellow Toastmasters. We can share it with people outside of our Toastmasters club. It's not just enough to help ourselves become better. I believe our purpose as Toastmasters is to take what we learned, the skills that we have, and to use them to help others, to bring meaning to other people's lives. I joined Rotary because I believe in service, and now that I have the ability to help others, I can help the homeless or reach out to those in need. I've even been given opportunities through my Rotary Club to talk about Toastmasters. Can you imagine for all the members in Toastmasters that you share, that you help, that you support, that you encourage, how they might aspire to want to be like you, to be a leader, to be something, somebody. Can you imagine all the people outside of your club, outside of the Toastmasters that you help, that you work in your community, whether it be through Rotary, through your church, through an animal shelter, through all these different causes that are out there, all those people's lives that you touch and you share your story, and how you help them grow, using your skills that you learn as Toastmasters, how they might want to bring purpose to their life, bring hope. You see, fellow Toastmasters, I believe that God has a purpose for your life beyond just being a member in Toastmasters, beyond just being a leader in Toastmasters. I believe there's a purpose for you learning your skills, becoming a better person, and using it outside of Toastmasters and touching lives. I think you've realized by now that there is no magic pill. The ability of this pill has been in you all this time. It's called right here. Let God use you. Use your skills. Help others. Remember the we, empower others. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Stanley. Thank you for sharing from your heart today. Awesome time there.